Christoph Romuald, the medieval crusader turned 9th generation Brujah found within nihilistic software's Vampire the Masquerade Redemption, is both an amazing character and victim of obscurity within gaming history. Many of you may know games such as VTM Bloodlines and recall many of the characters, but far fewer are aware of Redemption, an equally as deep yet equally as flawed title released 4 years prior to Bloodlines' release. The game truly expanded upon the world of darkness and was a great source of lore and unique tales, which are told throughout the plot, which spans from the 12th century all the way up to what was then the present day, or the year 1999 to be exact. It is a game which travels across continents and a variety of locations, and offers an amazing insight into the vampire world. The game even had a multiplayer section, which acted as a storyteller mode, where you could create scenarios and grant quests to a party of players, which was honestly quite ambitious in hindsight for a game released in the year 2000. However, for all the title offered, its mechanics and overall gameplay seemingly caused reviewers of the time to shelve it as perhaps another promising yet lackluster entry in the annals of video game history. Whilst it was graphically impressive for the time, it perhaps did not reach the wider RPG demographic, and thus sort of fell into obscurity. Whilst VTM Redemption has gone a little overlooked by the last 2 decades of video game releases, it has never truly been forgotten. The game is still very much available on Steam for people to access, without having to download unofficial patches or fixes, and it runs, in my experience, quite well. The game also has a loyal following behind it, which both remember its release and have followed its lifespan into the 2020s. And whilst I enjoyed my time rediscovering the streets of Prague, London and New York as Christoph in the original point-and-click adventure, nostalgia only held my interest for so long. And this game is the perfect contender for a remake, of which you have already been watching this entire time. Today, we are going to be taking a first look at Vampire the Masquerade Redemption Reawakened, a Skyrim fan mod project which aims to revive interest for the game, providing an experience which will be both enjoyable for fans of the original material and the World of Darkness alike. It is a project which, in the same vein as its progenitor, is ambitious but also daring to take the game in a bold yet familiar direction. So firstly, if you like what you see already, all links to this team's socials and Discord server are in the description below. It would mean the world if you followed their progress in this amazing project and let them know that Apollo sent you. Also, if you enjoy dark tales from grim universes or want to learn more about the World of Darkness, perhaps leave a like or even subscribe, as it helps the channel immensely. A preliminary aspect you might be thinking of is, why Skyrim? I thought this myself after watching the promotional material on Galejro's channel, and after having been kindly given a playtest copy, there are some certain elements which stand out about the game's current design. For those fans of the old game, you will know that the original VTM Redemption was a primarily third-person, occasionally first-person point-and-click role-playing game, which blended both real-time combat and party mechanics to bridge the gap between a JRPG-style game and what we understand as being more of a Western-style RPG. The unique aspect of Redemption is that it spans across a great expanse of time, somewhere around 800 years. The opening scenes are set within a medieval Prague, which, as you can see within the fan mod, perfectly fits the rustic ambience of Elder Scrolls V. Whilst I must preface that this game is truly in its most early stages right now, we can already see how the setting of Prague and that of present-day New York and London intersect in this jarring yet beautiful way, which really challenges how you perceive the base game. And I must say that this project truly makes the most out of the creation kit. The sections within the present day, particularly that of London, make you almost forget that you're playing Elder Scrolls at all. In Prague, despite it being in a very early alpha stage, I became a little skeptical that it felt perhaps too much like Skyrim, which was immediately swept away when I visited the familiar locations within the city. The original game spends a vast amount of time building up the lore of medieval Prague, and the characters within it, which exist in a tumultuous balance with the vampires which in some cases overtly dictate their lives. Thus, Skyrim feels like a fitting game to reawaken the original title, as it shares a lot of familiar ground both atmospherically and mechanically. It is truly impressive what this team has done so far with utilizing Skyrim as a base source, and they have embraced how a modern VTM game should feel by using various gameplay mechanics which feel somewhat akin to Bloodlines in many ways, which I will touch on later. There is a nostalgic feel to this game, which I cannot fully describe. Every location feels as if it was made within the golden age of games such as Bloodlines, without feeling uncanny. uncanny. What is truly fascinating, however, is how Redemption Reawakened takes the core mechanics of Skyrim and transfers them rather cleverly to the mechanics that fans of the original game will be familiar with. For example, Skyrim's progression and skills tree is repurposed for Kristoff's vampiric disciplines and supplementary skills. It's a great use of the base mechanics found within Elder Scrolls, and I can't wait to see them develop as the game progresses further. The scrolls and magic system is also used in a very interesting way, as it integrates the magic systems of the original Redemption's game, albeit without the drag and drop inventory system, of which I'm rather glad has been done away with. So as I've said before, what struck me first about this project was how the essence of the World of Darkness was captured. Now, me being a fairly skeptical person around anything regarding this franchise, I truly didn't believe Skyrim would be the game of choice when remaking Redemption. But it's interesting to see the vast changes the team have made towards the base game. The game is developing a variety of systems which you may be very familiar with if you've played Bloodlines or even Redemption. Humanity is one of these systems, which is visibly seen when you go about on a horrific killing spree of innocents. The other, of course, is a breach of the Masquerade, a mechanic integral to any game which wishes to use VTM as a setting. Understanding that there are greater lore consequences to your actions in this world makes it feel instantaneously at one with the wider franchise. With these two mechanics in tandem, it truly does feel, even within these early stages of the game, that you are occupying a universe which is faithful to both the setting of the World of Darkness and Vampire the Masquerade. The team has also branched out into feeding mechanics in these early stages, which, funnily enough, work fairly similarly to the original game, yet instead of worrying that you're going to hack an innocent person's head off, it's as simple as sneaking towards them and choosing to feed. Yet at this point, it's mostly a glorified health boost with a consequential element. It's a neat mechanic, which still of course needs development, but a welcome one at that. Even in these early stages, playing around with the weapons is both a fun experience and a sign that some mechanics are still being heavily worked upon. And whilst combat has been fun, there's nothing quite like being one-shotted by a bag of holy light from the other side of a corridor. The variety of enemies which we will see in the game, however, is exciting. The Zamishi ghouls, the Slatter, are present in their own grotesque ways, as are a multitude of enemies from the medieval period all the way up to modern knights. Guns, in their current form, are an interesting addition to enemies within the game. Yet using one myself, I found it rather difficult to use, so I simply stuck to melee. However, I have been made aware that overhauls to the gunplay system are in the works. Guns are perhaps one of the more interesting elements of this project, and were a bit of a sore spot for the original game, where the original title's format never really gave way to interesting gunplay, and you were often met with static gun battles at a strictly set range. However, with Skyrim being a more first-person experience, this should amend that problem. What I am pleased to see is that the developers have already factored in the diversity of weapons, mechanics, characters and enemies the original game had offered. The original Redemption may have been flawed in many ways, but it puts many games to shame in what it offers in sheer variety. Redemption, as much as it was a game about vampires, was also a title which showed the true expanse of the World of Darkness. Even though you played a preset character, you never felt as if you were locked into one singular experience that the night had to offer, and its story reflected this. Reawakened can take a variety of approaches to either streamline the experience of its parent game, or could potentially reintegrate more systems from the original, as it already has with so many aspects. There are obviously elements that a Skyrim mod would perhaps struggle to integrate, such as a party system or the old storyteller mode, but I think expecting as such would be setting our expectations unrealistically. The team so far has done wonders to both emulate and restyle the original experience, and I think that is a monumental task enough, yet which I believe this team will conquer. I hope the current passion which is seen throughout the game now can be carried through to the story, the voice acting, and the further development of mechanics which we can already see. Just walking through this game and taking in the atmosphere is already extremely enjoyable as it stands. Where I want to conclude is simply on a hopeful note for the future of this project. I can tell that there is a lot of love and dedication that has already gone into this fan game, and I have veered away from being overtly critical of what I've seen so far, because it's both extremely early in development, but its scope is also something to be truly admired. The team is ever expanding, and they still need people to occupy roles from the game development side to providing voices for NPCs and even music and art. This is probably one of the most promising fan creations I've seen at such an early stage within the World of Darkness, and I have simply fallen in love with what this game plans to do. Redemption might have had an early shelf life in the mainstream gaming sphere, but it will make a valiant rebirth when this game hopefully makes its way to your PC. So, Once again, please do check out the description to learn more about Vampire the Masquerade Redemption Reawakened, and perhaps join their Discord to find out how you can get involved, or follow the project's updates and progress. If you enjoyed this video, perhaps leave a like and let me know what you would like to see next. Also, if you really enjoyed this installment, perhaps even subscribe. And so, until next time, stay safe and do not wander naively into the night.